In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to select some pixels and then move them into a different background. A lot of what Photoshop is about is selecting pixels. Now, for this lesson, I'm going to have some instructions I'm going to write in here later on, but at the bottom of the lesson, you'll see these 5 files. One of them is an image file, which was Steve. Then I have a picture of a beach, a crowd, a hillside, and a certain person. And we're going to start doing composites of these images. So here I've got Steve right here. This is a JPEG version of the picture that was a CR2 image that you download for this. I'm just going to use the JPEG image. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these purple pixels that are around Steve's head, and then I'm going to move Steve into this background so that these people are all worshiping him as he deserves. And then I'm going to put him in this background because he's retired and he can enjoy his life here. And then I'm going to put him here because he likes to go up into the mountains and look at stuff. And then I have a surprise at the end that we're going to do some things. So the big thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to select and move pixels. So I want to select Steve right here, but I don't want to select this purple background. There's a few ways I could do this. These tools right here are for selecting. So I can click on this lasso tool and I can start just lassoing around Steve, so I'm selecting him. But as you can see, if I want to do a perfect job of selecting Steve, I'm going to have to go around him and be really careful going. Now I'm actually pretty good at this, but when I do this, I finish selecting him. I've got him selected okay, but when I take and move these pixels using the move tool, that was the lasso tool I used to select, and now I'm going to use the move tool. I'm going to move him up to one of these other images. I'm going to drop him in here, but I got this old purple thing around him that doesn't look so good. So that's probably not a good way to select Steve. So I'm going to delete that layer where I dropped Steve into. Steve's still over here. That part's selected, but I'm going to do a different way to select. Another way to select would be a couple other tools. There's this magnetic lasso tool right here that works pretty well. I'm not going to use that though. I'm going to use something that's even easier. There are 2 tools that I can use. I'm going to use this quick selection tool. This quick selection tool chooses pixels that are similar in color or hue or whatever. And I'm just going to go like this, and notice how it's just picking the colors. It's selecting those marching ant things mean that area is selected. Everything around that. I want to select right here. I want to select that part of his eyeglasses. And to do that, I'm going to go Control plus key and zoom in. Now I'm going to hold down the space bar. I'm going to come over right there because I'm using the left bracket key to select that part of his glasses. And right there, I want that selected. That looks pretty good. We're going to have to worry about this purple later on. I'm going to Control 0 to go to the full view again. And I'm going to finish selecting and make that selection area a little bigger. The selection brush, I'm going to make it a little bigger. And then I'm going to just select Mr. Steve's shirt here. Okay, it's pretty well selected, isn't it? We've got a problem right here, and we've got a problem with the hair. Selecting hair is a challenge, and I'm going to show you how to successfully, hopefully, select hair. So now that I've got him selected, I'm going to modify the selection by refining the edge. So I'm going to the Select menu, and I'm going to Refine Edge. And I get this dialog box that shows up. And I kind of want to do a smart radius to figure out what I'm going to select. I'm just going to go up there a little bit, and I want to have a bit of a smooth edge to it and go make it about 11 pixels thick. And then I'm going to just go around the edge. And what this does, this is just magical, and if you've spent any time selecting pixels in your life, you will appreciate what this will do. So I'm just clicking on there, made the brush bigger by hitting the right bracket key, and now I'm just going to go around. I'm just going to go around the edge of Steve's hair, and it is going to select some of those wispy hairs that he has, including some of that neck hair. Notice how I went around there. See how this hair is kind of selected right here? I'm also going to go around the edge here and got rid of that purple that I had right there. I'm just going to keep going around his skin and right here so we don't have a really solid edge, because when we do that, it doesn't look quite right. And I'm pretty happy with that selection. It looks all right. I'm going to do just a little more there because I think there's some hairs flying around there. So now when I'm done with that selection, by the way, I can zoom in on it right here. Notice how that selected those hairs, and that is just a miracle. that it's that easy to do it. I used to spend a lot of time selecting hairs like that just by hand. To finish selection, I'm going to, I always like to create a new layer with a layer mask when I do this. So new layer with layer mask, and I'm going to tell it to remember the settings so it does that the next time I do selection. And here we go. Watch what happens right here. Notice it created a new layer with this layer mask, and we'll go into masks later on. But for now, I'm just going to say there's a layer mask there. Now I'm going to use the move tool, and I'm going to move Steve into the crowd. So I'm going to use that move tool and make sure that Steve is selected right here, not the mask, but I have Steve selected here. I'm going to drag right here. Oh, I went to the beach. I want to go here. And I drop Steve there. Now he's too big, and we can see a lot of the purple right there. That's okay. I'm going to go control 0, 0, 0 like this. Oops. Yeah. Control, control minus to make it smaller. And I'm going to use the transform keyboard shortcut, which is Control T. And notice how Steve was too big for the picture. I use a Control T to be able to shrink him. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key while I grab this corner and shrink. And I'm going to move him up here. And Steve's starting to be in front of the crowd, and they are worshiping him because he is godlike. You go Control 0 to go full view right here. The only trouble is I'm going to hit Enter to accept that selection. I have a couple of problems here. We cut off his shoulders in this portrait. That's okay. These people love him anyways. And you can see that there's an edge around here. So what I want to do is with my eraser tool, I'm going to make sure I have this selected. I'm just going to erase carefully that edge that goes around Steve, so it looks a little more authentic. Easy to do. And now these guys all look more orange than he does. Well, and there's this magical filter in Photoshop, which is the camera raw filter. Remember, you go camera raw before you go into Photoshop. Well, we can, while we're in Photoshop, now use camera raw as a filter. Now, don't worry about this purple showing up right here. It's not a big deal. What we want to do is adjust the hue and saturation here a little bit. I'm going to use the parametric curve first to adjust the exposure a little bit. Then I'm going to come here. I'm going to do a little more saturation so he looks a little more. Now we're starting to get the same color as these. I'm not worried about what he looks right here. I'm worried about what he looks here, trying to match them. Now I'm going to go down here to the luminance. I'm going to make him a little darker because it's kind of nightimey. I'm going to make this darker down here. And I'm pretty happy with those quick changes that I just made. I'm going to click OK. And I think it looks all right. I think he looks like he almost belongs there, and they love him. They're worshiping him. In fact, since it looks like they're kind of looking over this way, I'm going to drag him over this way a little bit because these guys kind of look like they're looking over this way. So here's Steve. They're all worshiping him. That's great. Now, I'm going to also drag Steve into this beach picture. So I'm going to, again, make sure I have the Move tool selected. Make sure Steve is selected here. I'm just going to go up here, hold it over beach, and drop him in. Now he's way big compared to this. So I'm going to go Control minus to zoom out, then can go Control T to transform. Again, I click on the corner, hold down the Shift key, and then I make Steve smaller, and I'm going to put him in this cute little beach scene. That's good right there. I'm going to go Control 0 to zoom in. I'm happy with that. I am going to adjust. Oh, I need to erase around again because we can see the edge of that image. I'm going to erase down to here. That looks better. And oh, I forgot to fix the purple in his hair because it looks like it's purple. I need to go to the filter and go camera off filter, and we're going to make a few adjustments. I'm going to, out of Steve, I'm going to get rid of the purple. So I'm going to come over here, and the purple, I'm just going to darken it. That's going to darken those purple edges of him. I'm also going to use this tool, and I'm going to do parametric curve again, make it look a little more like it's beachy here, a little sunny. Oh, you can't see the side of this, can you? Down here. And then I'm going to add a little more saturation. And I'm going to give him a tan because he's at the beach, so I'm going to darken him a little bit so it looks a little beachy. It's like he's been to the beach. Then I click OK. And notice how he's changed. You can see how that purple is still there. So I'm going to zoom in right here, and I'm going to use what's called the burn tool. Notice I have dodge burn. When you burn, it darkens an area. So I'm just going to go like this. I'm going to darken that so it doesn't look so that purple's gone. And I can still see some purple around the edge right here, so I'm just going to darken that a little bit. And down here on his neck, I think it's a little bit purple, so I'm going to do that. By the way, if I use this burn tool right here, notice how it kind of darkens him up a little bit. I'm going to Control Z to undo that. I could make his glasses a little like their sunglasses, kind of darken that in, and then darken it in over here. Now he looks like he's got some sunglasses on. It also makes him look like the Emperor from Star Wars by darkening, like making those eyes a little redder. All right, now there's one other thing I want to do. I want to go back to my original picture. Again, it doesn't move it permanently. Just when I'm clicking and dragging, it's copying and pasting. I was going to put him in here. Yeah, I'm going to put him in there now. So I'm going to grab Steve. I'm going to drop him in this place, the hillside thing, and notice how he kind of fits in there. Now, I'm going to Control T to shrink him. I'm going to have him in the corner just a little bit. I'm going to shrink him even more. I'm just going to have him really small over here in the corner. And we've got that. The trouble with this is we got him kind of cut off right here. Oh, I was going to erase around his dome here, around that edge here really quick so we don't see that edge. Now, I need something to look like standing in front of his arm so his arm doesn't look all awkward. So I have this really nice picture of Salma Hayek that I'm going to use. And I'm going to just use my selection tool, this quick selection tool. And I'm just going to quickly use this to select Salma Hayek because I don't want that background. I'm going to get this corner right here, get down her arm. I'm going to now hold down, while that's selected, I made the brush a little smaller using the left bracket key, and I'm going to hold down the Alt key. Notice how when I hold down the Alt key, that turns into a minus inside that. I'm just going to kind of click that, and I also want to deselect this. So I'm holding down the Alt key so I can get rid of the areas that didn't select her very well. And I could go out and use the brush and get these areas, that quick selection tool. Ooh, I am going to get rid of that right there because those plants look like they're part of her hair. And get her hair back again. I think that looks okay. I'm going to just zoom in really quick right here to make sure the selection's all right. It's not a perfect selection. There's some wisps that are selected. Let me go back to that selection tool. I always forget the keyboard shortcut. I think it's W. Let's go back in. Let's just get a few more of those hairs. I'm going to hold down the space bar so I can drag up. I could go get all the wisps of hair and try to get these in, but I am not going to bother right now because this is getting to be a long lesson. I'm going to use this move tool, and I am going to grab her. That was probably inappropriate to say. I'm going to grab right here on her face. I'm going to drag her to the hill and drop her in. And she's kind of small, so I'm going to put her right in there, right next to Steve, so it's covering up that shoulder where it's just kind of cut off. So now Steve and Salma are kind of hanging out on the hillside. She looks a little smaller than him, so I'm going to bring her down a little bit. I'm going to grab Steve here also. I'm going to, again, transform him, Control T. I'm going to make him a little smaller too, so that I put him about right there. But I need to do two things. I need to desaturate her because she has too much saturation, maybe saturate him a little bit more. So I'm going to go into what's called an adjustment tool. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to add a little more contrast to Steve. Notice it's only, oh wait, it's doing everything. I got to turn that off right there so it only does the layer that I'm adjusting. So I don't want to do too much brightness, but I want to make Steve look a little more contrasty. And then I want to do the same to Miss Hayek. So I'm going to do an adjustment tool on her, and I'm going to get rid of saturation. Now I could use camera raw filter. I'm just showing you another option. And I'm going to decrease the saturation on her. Oh, I forgot to do this. I only want it to apply to her layer. So I'm going to decrease her saturation a bit and maybe move her hue over kind of towards Steve's hue a little bit so they look like they match each other. And I think that's it. The last step is I'm going to crop them together so it looks like a picture that we took together then. I used the crop tool to do that and made it sure it shows ratio. I didn't want a preset ratio, so I'm just using this ratio thing. After I get the area that I want selected, I hit enter. Let me see if it'll, to accept it. I'm going to go Control 0 to bring it in full size. And here we have Mr. and Mrs. Steve up in the mountains on a path. This one looks kind of fake, doesn't it? But this gives you the idea of how to select pixels, move them, and then try to make things match. I do need to go darken his hair a little bit using that burn tool again. Probably to select Steve here, so he's selected, and I can kind of burn that in so it looks like his hair is dark right there. And as I do that, I'm just going to kind of end it right here. Let's see, that's all right. I'll talk to you later.